This episode is part of Glendale Library Arts and Cultures and the Southern California Library Cooperative's Be the Change series, which focuses on inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism.
Be the Change events will build collective understanding of systemic racism, elevate the voices and stories of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and inspire our community to be the change.
Welcome to another episode at Teen Gen Talks, hosted by me, Melissa.
And me, Desiree.
Where the goal is to empower the youth of Glendale and connect youth to community resources, individuals, and organizations through interviews and discussions.
And today we are joined by special guest, Mai Imai. Mai is the owner and founder of PaperTreats, a Japanese stationery shop. Mai graduated with a journalism degree from Syracuse University, and over the years, she has wanted to connect with her Japanese culture, and she has found that connection through stationery.
Don't forget to follow us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram at MyGlendelleLAC. Don't forget to also listen to us on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Glendale Library Arts and Culture, where we give out full episodes every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, Mai, for taking the time every day to talk with us. We have a lot to discuss.
Hi, Melissa, and hi, Desiree. Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you. I want to start off by touching upon your passion for writing. You have a journalism degree, and how and when did you find your love for writing?
You know, I think ever since I was young, I was really gravitated towards books. So just by reading, I always kind of had imagination in my head. And then I love to write, just something about just, writing with pencil and paper, whether it was like a creative story idea or at school. I was very shy. I still am shy, but at school, I didn't talk at all. Like I didn't raise my hand, and I was always so nervous to speak. So my communication was through writing and expressing myself on paper. So I think that's how it really kind of started.
How was your education journey?
It was good. It was challenging, but growing up, I have two younger brothers, and they were into sports, and so I started watching sports with them. And I don't know how, but somehow I just really, really got into watching sports, and whether it was baseball or football or basketball. And I kind of felt like I want to be a journalist, but in sports. So somehow I got really, really kind of motivated and determined, and knew in high school that I was looking up journalism schools. And Syracuse was highly recommended when it came to sports journalism specifically. So I knew I wanted to go there. And that was really my 4 years in high school kind of mission, was to study and kind of work hard to get there.
And touching upon like journalism again, how did you further pursue journalism when you got to Syracuse? And how did you kind of because I know with sports journalism, did you want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera? And how did you overcome that shyness too?
Sure. So when I started college, I kind of wanted to do both, given how shy I am with sports and showing my face. But somehow with sports, I think I forgot about the nerves. And so I kind of wanted to do a little bit of both, of whether it was newspaper style sports journalism or on camera, kind of being an interview, because I always like to think of questions, and I like to think about, sports tells a story when you watch it. So it's kind of you creating your own voice and how you viewed the game. And there's very different angles to sports that you can choose to do. So in college, I was balancing newspaper club, radio club. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to do like a 5:30, it's like a 30 second to a minute, like sports highlights. That was on the radio. So at least I didn't have to be on camera, but just talking. So I did some of that. And then newspaper was kind of following field hockey or lacrosse or kind of the smaller sports, and developing kind of relationships with players and coaches, and kind of a lot of hands-on journalism, so to say.
Over the years, you went to find you went to reconnect with your Japanese culture. How did you find that connection again?
It's interesting because, one thing I was thinking about when you invited me here was just my journey and how I went in thinking I want to be a sports journalist. And I went to college and I got my degree. And, sometimes things don't work out the way that you hoped. And, there's a lot of pressure and expectations. And I think if you don't reach that goal, you kind of feel disappointment in yourself. At least I'm speaking for myself, is, from my colleagues, the friends that I made in college, and they all had the similar degrees. And, now I see them, they've published books, or I see them, their name in the newspaper or on TV. And it just kind of reflects, well, what did I accomplish? But when sports didn't work out for me, just because of the challenges of kind of starting from the bottom up, and there's just many challenges within it, I just knew I had to get a regular job. It didn't matter what it was. So I took on executive assistant type work. And it was just a 9-to-5 job, but I still gave it the same kind of hard work ethic of treating it like work, but that didn't mean that I couldn't have something on the side to do. And so when I had a family, when I had my daughter, I had a choice of going back to work or staying home. And I debated about it, but I decided ultimately I didn't want a 9-to-5 desk job answering to my bosses.
Mhm.
And I'd rather spend some time with my daughter. And as for work, I'll figure it out. And so during that time with her, I think that's kind of when I reconnected with my Japanese culture and my roots. And because I always like to tell her stories, and I wanted to share my Japanese culture with her. So whether it was reading Japanese books or showing Japanese cartoons or TV shows, that kind of developed kind of a road for me to, hey, there's something here for me.
So now let's talk about PaperTreats. Could you talk more about PaperTreats' story and how it came to be?
Yes. So as my daughter she'd write a lot, draw a lot when she was younger. So for her birthdays, for her friends and whatnot, I always like to give stationery. So, on my trips to Japan, I'd always hoard by Japanese stickers and pencils and, cute little things, and not just Sanrio, but all other brands and styles. So I'd bring that back. And so for birthday parties or birthday gifts, I'd kind of package together stationery and have her give them to her friends. And that kind of got a lot of feedback from the parents of, I love this so much. Do you have a shop or do you sell them? And that's really when I decided, you know what, maybe I can attempt a little online shop and kind of curate or gather Japanese products of brands and styles that I'm familiar with. So that's how initially PaperTreats started. But I didn't realize when I did start my shop that there's a whole community, and it's not just children, but young adults and adults who love and know about it more than I do. And so when they started discovering my shop and I was receiving more customers, I was just blown away by just the support that I received from that.
As a business owner, what have you learned throughout your journey so far?
There's lots of challenges. I thought, opening a shop online, it's not a physical store. So I thought, okay, it shouldn't be that hard, but there's a lot of hard work, especially just as one person, the customer service and, maintaining the website, the pictures, taking photos and getting all the products. The products I order are imported from Japan. So I have to do a lot of vendor inquiries and, bookkeeping. And then customer service, as I mentioned, and just really packaging and all of that. So it is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun.
And how do you balance work and life?
It's hard, I think, for everyone, especially it's gotten better now, finally, so slowly, but I think especially during the pandemic, everybody was trying to find balance. But for me, it was just not putting too much pressure, whether it's family or the shops, the business side of it. Just kind of take it day by day, kind of manage a schedule and go from there. Really is not putting too much pressure on myself.
So on your website, you have a tab called Kids Gallery, where you share children's writing and creativity. If you could talk more about it and the inspiration behind it.
Sure. So with my shop, I obviously sell stationery, but I didn't create it as with a mindset of just to sell products. I really had a passion for kind of telling stories, sharing culture, and having, a daughter. I love children's art. I love seeing their writing. It can be a doodle or a scribble. It's still, their form of expressing something on paper. And it really resonated to me. So I thought, how fun would it be to kind of incorporate it on my website, just a small gallery, and from customers or personal friends who've submitted their children's artwork or writing. So I've just been posting it as I've been receiving them. And it just makes me happy because it's a constant daily reminder of the things that, inspire and make me happy. So.
And how do you promote PaperTreats? How has that journey been of like branding yourself and your company?
Sure. So marketing is not my strong point. I guess I could say with my business, I started it with a mindset of, let me focus on the passion or what interests me, or tying in kind of stories with products. So for example, I have it's a strawberry sticker sheet. And rather than just say, it's a sticker sheet, I incorporate my own story of how I like to go strawberry picking with my daughter. So I know that most people, most people don't have to read it or care necessarily, but it's something I enjoy. And I thought, tying in stories to each product, and hopefully that's something kind of a little unique and that customers would enjoy seeing.
What is a piece of advice that you could give anyone that is wanting to start a business?
Stay focused on your vision, whether it's your own art or your own piece, or if you are inspired by something, kind of not to lose focus. I know as a shop, when I first started, my only social media is Instagram, because social media in general is pretty intimidating for me, but Instagram is kind of where I started. And I remember in the beginning, people were like, it's all about, the numbers or the followers, or you got to have, the reels, or there's so much information of how to make your account successful or get more exposure. And that was really, really overwhelming. And so I decided, I'm not going to pay any attention to what other shops are doing. It only distracts. And then I say, oh, look at their nice pictures. And it's got to kind of a rabbit hole of comparison. So I kind of drew myself back in and said, just focus on myself and, what aspect of your shop or your creation do you like the most, and just not lose focus, I guess.
Creativity is a big theme surrounding PaperTreats and your life. So how do you keep that creativity going?
It's a good question. I actually am inspired every day through Instagram. I like to follow a lot of individuals and artists and creators. And every time I see something, whether it's their journal page or an envelope they decorated, or, their latest artwork or creation that they're going to sell in their own shop, it really motivates to keep being connected within the community. Everyone's so creative, and you kind of want to be on board with them and sharing and supporting one another. And I think, support is a huge thing with in the community as well, just supporting one another and small businesses and small creators. Everyone, it's so hard to market and kind of get the exposure, especially when, there's so much competition out there. So I think really supporting one another and sharing each other's work, or, commenting, has really kind of been great.
Where would you like to take PaperTreats in the future?
I would like to actually, because I enjoy supporting small business so much, I wanted to focus a little bit on Japanese creators in Japan who maybe haven't worked with big brands and might be interested in selling some of their handmade products to my shop. and I could share them with customers here in the US. I know that a lot of, Japanese people might be intimidated or embarrassed, maybe not knowing as much English. And kind of intimidated to kind of venture out. So I thought, it would be a great idea, possibly if I were kind of the one to give them the spotlight or exposure, but still honor their creativity in a way that it would resonate with everybody.
So before we end, we have some rapid fire questions to ask you. The first question is, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is yellow. It's something I use a lot actually in my own shop. So you'll see it, it's a yellow heart. It just, my favorite color used to be black back in my younger days. So it's a completely different, I feel like yellow is uplifting.
When are you the happiest?
When I'm packaging customers' orders or writing notes or just working on my website really, or typing, writing.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Don't be so hard on yourself. I think 18 was a super tough age for me, but don't be so hard. Even now, it's a constant reminder of not being so hard and comparing success to other people's,
If you could have 3 people dead or alive for dinner, who would it be?
Say Reggie Miller, who is a basketball player. He's retired, but he's an athlete that I enjoyed when I was younger. I would say my aunt who passed away 5 years ago. I would think that I didn't get to see her as often as I wanted. And she had actually kept the letter that I had written her when I was 7. And it came back to me when my mom went to her funeral. So I still have that letter. So it would be awesome if I could go back and, if she were present to have a conversation about that.
What is a song that you have on repeat currently?
My daughter has Butter on a lot by BTS. And then she also has, my daughter's playlist is kind of dictates. Usually when I'm working, I'm listening to various podcasts, but also Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen is something that's constant repeat, but I'll go by my daughter's selections.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Through my shop and through my inspiration, I can encourage people to still maintain kind of traditional letter writing. I think writing letters is something I'm really passionate about with my children and wanting to pass it on. It's just a simple card or a thank you. It doesn't have to be a novel or, a long script, but just every day writing something or sending someone a letter or a hello or I miss you, I think is, if we can keep the traditional snail mail going, that would be, I think, a legacy.
What is your favorite movie?
I like Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, both Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks movies. But
what is a book that you have recently read or are currently reading that you would recommend?
Well, with my daughter, we just actually finished reading Babe, the pig book, but I haven't had time to read books personally. But then another one that I just started with her it's a graphic novel called The Banned Book Club. And it's about a student in South Korea during the 80s and kind of how it kind of revolves around censorship and how she kind of escapes through books. And it was really, really, we've only gotten a few into it, but this is the book. And it's pretty good so far, I think.
Well, thank you so much, Mai. We learned a lot about you. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to sit down with us and talk. Can you let everyone at home know about any upcoming projects and where they could connect with you?
Well, I can be found on Instagram at PaperTreats Shop. And as for projects, I'm hoping to bring in more Japanese creators and artists who aren't with big companies, that I can kind of share their artwork or styles through, their stationery, and hopefully kind of continue to share with the stationery community here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Really enjoyed having you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.